You're watching the CG Live podcast. Now, the content for these podcasts are a little bit different than our normal pods as we bring on members and do long form interviews. These were actually recorded live at our events with members that were going on stage to present. So the content is killer. Enjoy the show. Welcome into the Collective Genius Podcast. Leon Barnes here from Oceanside, California, to event. We now have CEO and Premier CG Legacy. I have been waiting, and I can't believe I haven't had this man on the pod yet because I have so many people that say your name from an application standpoint, from who's been their coach and who's helped me, my mentor. Anytime I post something about you, like in fact, we were posting about this event coming up, and all of you, the people that know you and respect you, all liked it. It's really cool to have that relationship. Please welcome in the pod, CG CEO member Jason Pritchard. Welcome to the show.
I love it, man. Thank you for having me on, dude. I've been waiting to get the call. I got the text a couple days before the event. I was like, I love it, man. I'm excited. Ready.
Man, there are certain people that you meet and you automatically like, this is a good dude.
Yeah.
And you're one of them, my man. Like, I know that when we first met, we only had one
Yeah.
group at the time, so there's some territory restrictions. Thankfully, we've got all of these different channels now, different tiers within the Collective Genius. It really bothered me as the person that was handling all the onboarding for people. When I knew someone was a great addition and I couldn't get them in, it was always tough. Thankfully, when we had the CEO group available, we connected on that, and you've been a part of that group now for over a year.
Yeah. Almost 2 years, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Years in the fall. And it's interesting. I think it's a God thing, the timing of that.
Yes.
Like, obviously, I think, remember we talked, and it would have been 3, 4, 5 years from that initial conversation before you guys made these changes. And it just ended up working at the perfect time because I needed the guidance that I'm getting out of that CEO group more than ever. And so I feel like, just like it is with everything else, man, the planning and the timing worked out great. And
It was meant to be.
it's absolutely, yeah.
I never told you this, but for those that are listening and watching this, when it's the Collective Genius was only one group. I started, there was 117 members, and there were, when the group started, there were a lot of territory restrictions, and so when I would meet be as though I'm someone that I was like, this is a CG quality individual. Take the business away from that. When I talk to somebody, are they a go giver? Is this somebody that would fit in the room that would give a ton of value? And I had a special folder for those individuals of territory denials, but CG fit.
Yes.
And your name was always your application. I'm very analog, dude. I don't do anything digital, man. My printed
Right in that flat.
applications were always, there was a few in there, but you were one of them. And there was just something there that I could, you can always tell when someone brings value. You're out of Central Valley of Florida, or Florida, it's California, Fresno. I was going to say Fresno and Florida came out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. I've been blown away, but how many investors are in that area and how you all have this almost mentor relationship. There's Armando, there's you, and both of you have all of these people, both CG CEO members, have all of these people that you've trained up.
Yeah.
You've actually not only trained up, I wouldn't say it's competition, but there's a lot of really good investors in the Central Valley because of people like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think groups like CG are at the epitome of this, but I did not get here by myself. And I think that always was something that was very important to me, even when I first started in the business 12 years ago. The information wasn't accessible as it is now, but it was still there on podcasts and bigger pockets and things like that. But I absolutely had people that took the time to pour into me, that helped me, that gave without any strings attached. And I was just always taught from growing up, and it's something that I applied towards my business. It's that, if I can pour into other people and help them grow, that compounding effect of our momentum, it doesn't take anything away. We actually get to where we want to go faster. And you see that in rooms like this where you've got hundreds and hundreds of people here, and we're all collaborative and sharing what's working for us and those best practices. And so I think it's really just an extension of kind of the vision of Collective G's.
You as an investor,
let's let the audience in on how you started, what your model is. You're a fix and flipper, wholesaler, what it is that you do specifically.
Yeah, so high level breakdown of my business is our core business has been a home buying business. We started that in 2014. Right now, we're doing just north of 120 deals a year, and it's about 60% fix and flip, 40% wholesale. In 2016, I bought my first rental property. We ran the portfolio up north of 100 units a few years after that, and we own and manage that. And then 3 years ago, we decided to take some of the capital and the chips that we put together from the home buying business, and we've reinvested into larger opportunities, specifically land development deals. And so, our market in Central California, you hear California and you hear prices are crazy and all of this stuff.
Central Valley is in Florida.
Central Valley is it doesn't feel like that for all the people that are born and raised there, but outside looking in, Central California is the last affordable place in California. So that creates this unique opportunity where there's still demand. If you're coming from LA to a place like Bakersfield, which is an hour and a half, 2 hours away, your money goes a lot further. And with remote work and all these other things, he's there. So we decided to make a big bet on that. And so right now we're running the home buying business and the rental business in parallel with some of these land deals. So
I love that. That makes total sense when we talked almost 2 years ago now where you were. So you had grown this, you've diversified. You're a great market.
yeah,
Very competitive market, but you're in a great market. When we started talking about CEO, I just remember you saying, I love the blocking and tackling, but that's not what I need right now. What was it that I remember the conversation, but if you don't mind sharing that, what was it that you needed at that particular time?
So, just like a lot of people that I think that just bootstrap their business and, I think I try to take like a white collar approach to how we do the day-to-day stuff, but that's layered on top of a blue collar work ethic. So the foundation is just a lot of hard work that came from me and my family. And I've never been afraid to work hard, but and you hear this all the time in these rooms that can only get you to one level and, willing to just pile more stuff and more responsibility on your shoulders. After 10 years of that, I started to realize, okay, we're kind of capped at the capacity that, Jason can do, and it's coming at the expense of family and some other things, and really at the expense of outside of family and personal life, this longer term vision to try to take a swing at some of these bigger deals. Like I've always had a seed planted in me to try to do larger opportunities. And I knew I needed help in building the foundation of my team, what that org chart looked like, so I could delegate some of the responsibilities in the home buying and wholesaling business so I could take my energy and efforts and focus on some of these larger land deals. And so that was really the big thing for me was, how do I build out a solid foundation? So if I take my eye off the ball, this business can still run. It can pay our bills. It can support our team because without the home buying business, there is no opportunity to do anything else. Those things need to run in tandem to each other for the next, even now, 3, 4, 5 more years. And then we can make a decision on whether we want to, do just focus on the bigger things. But this is absolutely a bridge to get us there.
I will say that that is a hard lesson. That is a hard message to get across to younger investors. That this active piece of the business, everybody wants to jump into these bigger projects with the sexier things.
Yeah.
New construction,
Yeah.
commercial, and it's hard for them to say, this grind thing that they're doing for the first 3 to 5 years with the active income. It sets up everything else. It's the domino that knocks everything else out that you want to do. So hearing you say that, I love when I have members come on and say, man, it's been so important for me to have that active. So I've got to make sure that even if it's not me doing it, that I'm building a team that can make sure that that's maintained because without active, it's very hard to build wealth
Absolutely. Yeah.
long term.
Yeah. And I think for anybody that's kind of in that position, some advice that I would share, and I knew this going in, but it's a different thing when you're living it for 2, 3 years as you're building all of that out. When you're kind of an owner operator, you're still wearing a lot of the hats. There's pros and cons that come along with that. And I think one of the pros is businesses are highly profitable. You know what I mean? You're making a lot of money, especially in the markets that we've experienced. And when you make this transition to build out the team, you're going to have to forego some of those profits for salaries, for increased marketing budget, for overhead, for all of this stuff. And there's going to be this season of time where, fortunately for us, we were very smart with our cash. We invested in a lot of rentals. We've been paying ourselves a salary, but we had to temper that a little bit to take some of those profits and grow the team out so we can do a bigger thing. So it can feel almost like one or two steps back to take a really big step forward, right? And I think you have to be mentally prepared for that period of time, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's been, years and years of hard work to try to put our heads down and shift the identity away from the company being all about Jason and everybody comes and talks to Jason versus, Jason's busy, but I can help you with this, right? And then a rebrand and putting the right people in place and all of that stuff. And so it's been a heavy lift for sure, but it's been worth it.
That's a perfect segue to you are the only CEO member that we've had on the pod at this event, and this is now almost 2 years in. We know exactly what you were going into that room for. What has that room provided you with? I mean, because it is the highest level room that we offer, our CEO level room. People are in that room not because they want to sip margaritas.
Yeah.
They're in that room to grow something beyond what they have today.
Yeah.
And build up their team, as you were saying before. So, in the meetings, what has it brought you to this point?
I think it's two things that I'll touch on. It's one, it's allowed me to compress the timeline through like real tactical stuff on like, Jason, you need to go back and do XYZ. And then when you come back to this meeting, we're going to hold you accountable to making sure that those things were done. So whether it was a key hire or a system that needed to be put in place, or even a change that I needed to go back, you got the tactical information. What I've always found is most valuable from this group is putting me in proximity with other really high level operators, right? And so it's guys like Jeff Neidiger and people of that kind of cut from that cloth where you're like, man, this is like one of the most impressive people that I've met. And like we had a breakout right now, right before this, where I was with Jeff for 2 hours and we're all doing kind of this roundtable discussion. But just the access to a guy like that, and there's countless people like that in the CEO room that are so open, so willing to share. And for somebody like me that can just be a sponge and maybe ask a few questions and then soak all of that stuff up. And it takes this really daunting task of saying like, I need to shift my identity, grow my business, do all of this stuff. And it really does compress all of that down and break it down into bite-sized chunks it's just much easier to digest and then go implement with.
Love that. Is there something that you're taking away from this meeting specifically after that 2 hours with Jad?
Yeah.
I've watched that guy's business grow. He started in Select. He's the only member ever to go from Select to Premier to CEO. Is there anything in specific that you've learned in here the last day and a half that you're going to take away, dude?
But one of the things that we're trying to do actively, because our land deals require so much cash, they're so cash intensive, we're trying to shift the percentage of how many projects we flip versus how many we wholesale. So I think I started saying, we're 60-40 right now. We used to be like 90-10 or even
Quicker cash
version, right? And we've been working to try to make that a little bit more balanced. But the initiative to my team and what I'm mandating this year is that number needs to invert. We need to go from 60% flip to 40% wholesale and vice versa, and just flip that number on its head. And just in the conversation that we had yesterday, the guys helped me come up with an exit strategy where I could potentially, we're so good at acquisitions and marketing and deal sourcing, which is, one of the big puzzle pieces right now. It's learning how to partner with somebody in a way where we could take an assignment fee on the front end of the deal and also share in the profits on the back end, right? While providing value and doing that. And I just had a mental walk, dude. And I just sat down at our table, and they back of the napkin on a piece of note paper, we turned it over and they said, no, Jay, you got to do it like this. And here's the numbers, here's this. And it seems, sometimes we make this way more complicated than it needs to be, but you need to hear it from a guy like Jeff or that kind of person to be like, no, dude, you're in your head way too much. It's really only this simple. And then you have these little light bulb moments that happen every time you come to one of these events. Then you take that back to the team and then you implement and then you go from there. And then you have these really bravery.
And I wish I could, that right there, what you just said, if I were to summarize what the Collective Genius has been for many members over the years, there's tons of things. But when it comes to that compression of time and also someone seeing the forest, how's it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't quite see, and it's right there. And it just takes someone to go, well, why don't you just do, I'll give you, for instance, when the Collective Genius first started, Jason started it 15 years ago. He had a good friend that said to him, you know, what is it that you really want to do? He goes, I want to work with the highest level real estate investors. I I'm not ready to take on, I'm not a coach. I don't want to do that. I want to work with the elite,
Yeah.
the highest level. And he goes, well, why don't you just market to those people and fill your room with that?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, it was just that simple, right?
Yeah.
And that's what this room was started because of a simple, that's just, here's what it is. You should do more of that.
I mean, and it's kudos to you guys because somebody has to create that environment first. And so without you and Jay and everybody on the team that contributes and allows these events to happen, we meet like high level type A, very driven people like a lot of us here in this room. We need to be able to come away from the business where we have a clear head, where we're not in the weeds every single day to even give us the opportunity to have that breakthrough. Now, obviously, we've got to come, we've got to show up, we've got to do the work. I've got to make those relationships. But, if without the environment that you guys create, it doesn't, there's no opportunity for that to happen. It is very fertile soil.
Really fertile soil for you've got to do the sowing, but for the soil you're there. What are you most excited about? Speaking of fertile, what's you most excited about here in 2026?
Oh man, for me, I touched a little bit on these land deals. It's just like one of those things once, my eyes were open to it and I was exposed to this upside here. I just had this calling, man, I feel like to try to take on some of these bigger things, like so many of us here in the room. And I just didn't have a clear path. I mean, I can remember there were times 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago where I'd park my car at a new home build or a development site where 300 apartments are going up, and I would get out and I'd walk around just to kind of like breathe it all in. But there was always this big gap on how do I go from Jason at that time flipping 20, 30 houses to being the type of person that can even take something on like this. And I'm much closer to that now than I've ever been at any point in my life, man. So it's for me, that's the thing that really, really excites me. And I like being challenged in a different way. Obviously there's a lots of challenges in our day-to-day business market and all the things that are going on, but actually working for 12 years, having a long-term vision, not knowing how to connect the dots, and now finally starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. It's super cool.
And you get some time with that grandkid.
That's it.
Man, yeah, the youngest grandpa. God, that's you might be the youngest grandpa I've ever met. Well, at least in CG.
Yeah.
More time for the kids, more time for the grandkids. So happy for you, man.
I appreciate it.
Long overdue to hack your show and your show. It's as always, man. Like I said, I mean this sincerely. There are a select few people in this community that I've never heard one bad thing about, and you are one of those. Reasonable, my friend. You have helped a lot of people get into these rooms, so we appreciate you, and hopefully we've been able to give you some of that. I see you, Matt. So listen, thank you for joining us. And look, Jason's in the CEO room, whether it's CEO, Premier, Select, or Elevate. If you're doing a couple deals a month all the way up to $20 million and thousands of deals a year, there's a tier for you. Now even commercial with CG Legacy. We have a room for you. The place to find the application. Application only. I promise you, if you're a full-time real estate investor, you want to be in one of these rooms. ExploreCG.com is where you find that application. Go there, fill it out, get in rooms with guys like this. These are salt of the earth. I mean, the really, really good people. You want to be in these rooms. Thank you again, Jay. Thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next Collective Genius podcast.
Are you ready to scale your real estate business? Visit ExploreCG.com, where real estate investors come to scale. Subscribe to the Collective Genius podcast and hit the bell icon to be notified when our next episode releases. And thanks for listening. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future results, and the opinions expressed by the hosts and participants are their own. The Collective Genius is not liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, or other damages resulting from reliance on the information shared in this podcast.